everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Exclusive, the podcast produced by PaperStreet Web Design and Marketing. Today, I'm joined with Andrew, our web director, and Mike, our lead developer. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining me.
Hi,
Hey,
Nancy,
Nancy.
for having us.
Now that I'm joined by developers, you can probably guess what our topic is going to be today. We're going to have a web tech-centric conversation, but before you panic and think it may be too advanced for you, we're actually going to take some web tech terminology and concepts that really everyone who's a website website owner should know and understand. Just basic things that you'll keep an eye out for. If you're having a website developed, you can ask your developer, or even if you're wondering, hey, is my website performing the way that it should? What are some things I should be thinking about? So we're going to break down some of our most common concepts, and we're just going to walk you through it and assume that you don't have any web tech knowledge. I mean, even myself, I've been with PaperStreet for a number of years now, but I still have to go to these guys for some tech advice. So we'll be keeping this as easy to understand as humanly possible. All right, we'll dive right into something that I, as the consultant, get asked a lot about here at PaperStreet. One of the most important things we always tell our clients about understanding is ADA compliance. Mike, you're kind of our guru for this here, so why don't you kick us off with this topic?
Yeah, web accessibility means making a website that conforms to the web accessibility guidelines. There's actually the set of guidelines is called the WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's a set of standards to make the website usable and perceivable in a manner of ways. In layman's terms, it means making the website not just usable with eyes and a fully functioning computer mouse, but making it so that someone that's using the website with just a keyboard, or maybe just being read to them with screen reading technology, can sort of use the website to its full capabilities as well. This broadens the audience you can reach. It importantly means that you're not subject to potential lawsuits. And it also just makes your website kind of more friendly to the world. Web accessibility, the most common example of this would be alt text on images. An image, of course, is something you have to see to sort of perceive and understand what it is, but alternative text for an image is a way of describing the image in the website code. So now, not only can you see the image with your eyes, but you can sort of have it described to you.
What level are we aiming for? What tools are we ensuring that we kind of use to get them to that level?
The WCAG I just mentioned has multiple levels of accessibility compliance. The AA level is really what we're shooting for. It's sort of a reasonable mix of meeting a lot of standards, but not sort of going over the top to the point that it would negatively impact website designs and kind of make it much harder to make something that clients find appealing. The AA standards actually encompass a whole lot, a pretty long list of different requirements to meet, not just including images, but everything from video to how the website is formed in the HTML structure. And we shoot for that middle level. We use tools like Wave, which is accessible at webaim.org is the website. You can pop any URL into that and have an automated, really quick scan of your website. It'll tell you errors and alerts that it finds. Errors being the real issues that we try to solve. Alerts sometimes can be sort of false positives, but it'll pop things like, this image is missing alt text, or there's a skip to content feature that doesn't work. And so these are easy ways to flag issues on your website and kind of get a feel for how compliant you are. If you pop your homepage into this and see more than, I'd say, like 5 errors, there's almost certainly work to do.
For ADA compliance, it's really important to make sure, obviously, all users who come to your website are able to access it. You may have a lot of disabled users, or some disabled users, I should say, who come, and you want to make sure they get the same experience that you would be building and developing your site for the general community as well. So it's really important from a usability standpoint that everyone can access it. And it's also from a legal standpoint, extremely important. So we've had clients come to us who have been in litigation or received lawsuits because their websites are not ADA compliant. Everything we build at PaperStreet follows ADA AA compliance standards. And we ensure when you come to us that we help you get in a good place and to avoid any potential lawsuits. But even more importantly, you want to make sure just everyone has that same great experience when they view your website that the general community does. And go ahead, Nancy. That's all I have to contribute on that.
No, obviously, we all have a lot to say about this topic because it is that important, and a lot of times the clients will be talking to me first and not necessarily to talking to you guys directly about what to understand about ADA compliance. And, I try to stay on top of this too. And I was actually really surprised, but back in March of this year, March of 2025, there were 454, or at least over 450 lawsuits filed for websites not being ADA compliant. And it's an important thing to keep in mind because some of our clients kind of poo-poo the idea and think, oh, what are the chances of us getting litigated against? And whether it's our own clients that we know had a problem before they came to us, or just staying on top of this in the news, it is real. And again, yes, reaching every audience is most important. That's what your goal should be, is making sure everybody who needs your site can understand your site. But, by the same token, also, like I said, it is a real threat that a lawsuit could actually happen. So, like I said, if you have any sort of concerns about this, even if you're not a PaperStreet client, you can always come to us about this. But if your web host does say they do ADA compliance, just stay on top of them. Make sure that they do that scan every now and then, because again, it is surprising how much were filed in just 1 year. And in case you're wondering, those top 3 states were New York, California, and Florida, which actually jumped up in the rankings in terms of states with litigation. So it's a real threat. It's worth thinking about. And like I said, it is something that, like I said, you should stay on top of from a human level for your audiences, and then just like I said, for a threat level as well. All right. And hopefully that's a good crash course on ADA compliance. We do have another podcast episode about that one if you're particularly interested. But for the purposes of this show, we're going to move right on to another critically important aspect of web tech that everyone should have a basic understanding of, and that is basic website security. Andrew, you want to take the lead on this one?
Absolutely. So we obviously harp on security a lot here with the legal industry. We have to make sure, especially our websites are secure and that we have security best practices. And really, that first bit of security is going to start with your SSL certificate. Every single site should have a valid SSL. When you go to any website, you'll see in the upper corner of Google at the URL bar, there's a little lock bar. Or if it has an SSL, if it doesn't, it will say not secure. That's built into Google now. And you want to make sure that your website is HTTPS. It shows really a trust factor with your clients, that you have at least some basic security. And now that Chrome, which is the most popular browser, says not secure with when you don't have an SSL, it's imperative to have one. We include that for all of our hosting clients, and you want to make sure, obviously, that you have one. Now, the next big thing with primarily WordPress development, you want to start by hiding your login URL. So the default login URL is your website URL -wp-admin. So bots and nefarious actors will try to get in that URL constantly. Even if you don't know it, even if it's behind the scenes, it's going on. So what we typically do is we hide that URL. And we provide basically a quote unquote secret URL to our clients so that they only know what it is. It's not indexed by Google, but you want to hide that login URL for your clients, or for your website, I should say. So that's super important. Then that kind of alleviates the need for needing multi-factor, because it can be kind of a pain to run multi-factor on WordPress. So what we like to do is really just hide the URL and make sure we have good login security. And that typically does the trick. Now, what in an ideal world as well is you would use a service called Cloudflare. Cloudflare is free. It's Cloudflare, FLARE.com. And that is a DNS provider. It is the best DNS provider out there, in our opinion. It works amazing. You can adjust how many bots are hitting your website, what type of traffic is coming through your website, what countries the websites are coming from that are hitting your website. You can basically get the highest level control over the type of traffic and security settings for your website by stopping it at a DNS level before it hits your server. So Cloudflare is something that all clients should use, especially because the free version is awesome. You don't have to even pay for it. It's a fantastic service. Then on top of that, as far as basic security goes, you want to make sure you are always updating your WordPress plugins to the latest versions, using scanning software such as Securi, just popping your site in there routinely. We run that for our sites on a routine basis, making sure your site's always on the latest WordPress version, the latest PHP version, the latest version of MySQL, all of that. So you want to make sure that your software that is powering your website is always up to date. And those are really some basic ones. I would throw in there, you really want to make sure you're taking nightly backups, one-click restore. You want to make sure your code is secure, your headers are secure. There's a lot that goes into running your website security. We are experts at it. We have a lot of resources on our site about website security as well, and we're happy to do any type of audit on your site. If you're not a client, or if you are a client, reach out to us. If you have any questions, hey, is what I'm doing secure with this? And all of that, we are more than happy to audit and look at your site. But we do take security very serious for the legal industry.
A lot of times clients will come to us from PaperStreet, and they have had someone who was their web host before. And we're going to dig into web hosts, but in terms of the security conversation, where they just had one person who was monitoring their website, monitoring their server, monitoring the site themselves. And the problem is that there are so many security threats out there that unless this person is just like a tech guru that knows everything, a lot of times you're better off having a team. So again, we always hope you're going to host with PaperStreet, choose PaperStreet, things like that. But whenever you're looking for, like, is my website secure? Do I have someone maintaining the security of my website? Really keep in mind that it's better to have a support team available to you. So not only can they bounce one thing off each other if we're terms of evaluating, make sure a site's secure, but also for the very important reason that if your site goes down and you're relying on one person, what if that person goes on vacation? What if that person gets sick? And a lot of times, like I said, we do know these law firms that have relied on this one person to take care of that, to take care of their web security. And in the minutes or days that go by when your website is hacked or taken down, it's a big deal and you can lose a lot of business that way. So like I said, make sure that whoever you're discussing your website security with, that if they're maintaining it for you, that they have the availability for you if the worst should happen. Because no matter how many precautions you take, the world is getting smarter out there. So just making sure that that person is up to date on everything is really key for the success of your website.
Absolutely. And just one more thing, since you were noting on how kind of security is evolving, with AI becoming more and more prevalent as well, we have seen a dramatic increase on bots hitting servers. So you may not even know that your site is getting hit heavily by bots, and it's a huge problem. It's driving up resources and driving up your server costs. So you need a team that is technical savvy enough to be reviewing your audit logs. Like, we took over a site in Cloudflare just yesterday that had over 100,000 hits in 24 hours. So getting completely nefarious traffic like that for a smaller, medium-sized business, even a large-sized business, is something to really be aware of.
All right, another thing, and this I think will be one of the slightly easier tech concepts to understand, is mobile responsiveness. In short, how does your site perform on things like your cell phone and your tablet? And it's something because a lot of times what clients don't realize is a lot of your traffic to your site, law firms included, are people coming in via cell phones and iPads. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to take a look at what your site looks like on a cell phone and see, hey, well, this isn't easy to navigate. Hey, this is tough to view, things like that. But I'm no tech guru. So, Mike, why don't you try to break this down a little bit more for our clients and explain it a bit better than just the obvious? Does my site look good?
Sure. When we build, our impressive designs for PaperStreet clients, it's all about the desktop. We're trying to work on a big screen and make something big and kind of flashy. But the truth is, like Nancy said, a vast majority of traffic now is coming not from tablets, but more so from our phones. I think we can all relate to that. We've all seen websites that, you open up and they just look dilapidated, unusable on the mobile screen. And here at PaperStreet, every website we build, is responsive. And what that means essentially is that the website code is responsive or responding to the device that the person is viewing it on. Contrary to maybe belief some years ago, there are no 2 or 3 versions of the website that we build to make it responsive. It's actually the same website code that's just built in a flexible manner. A nice example to use is, say, on desktop, something is 2 columns like this, 1, 2, because you have maybe an image on one side and content on the other. There's going to be styling rules that kick into effect when your browser window sort of shrinks down to a narrower size that make it go to 1 column. So everything kind of stacks. And this is just a basic responsive rule that makes it so that the same content that would be on 2 columns can be viewed on a mobile device. You can just sort of scroll it. In addition to that, there's like the mobile menu up in the top. You maybe press the hamburger button and it kind of slides open a different navigation. So there are some mobile specific versus desktop specific features, but really you can think of it as just a more flexible set of styling rules for the website that make the same site look good on any device.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, for general websites, 63% of all traffic comes from mobile devices. So as Mike started off, a lot of our clients get really hyper fixated on what their desktop design is going to look like. In reality, you should really be focusing on your mobile design, because for especially clients like PI clients, and some clients that are working with the general public a lot, it's probably even higher than 63%. Most of these people are not going to their desktop or pulling out a laptop to do a quick Google search to find an attorney. They are going from their mobile device. So I would start with your mobile design first and really try to find great ways to utilize call to actions, clean code, and as Mike will get into later, a fast mobile site. Having a fast web experience on mobile is extremely important.
Yeah, and it's important to, again, like I said, you don't always have to rely on PaperStreet. I hope you'll choose us, but if you don't, make sure that when you're looking at like a portfolio of a web designer that you're looking to develop a website and marketing campaign with, that you look at whatever they're showing you as a sample site. What does it look like on mobile? Because a lot of times it's very easy to make a really pretty desktop background, or their homepage looks fantastic on desktop. Does it work just as well on mobile? And again, you don't have to be a tech expert to know that. So is the menu easy to navigate when you look at their designs on the cell phone? Is it, can you find what you're looking for? Does the design ratio look correct to you? Is anything blurry? Things like that. So again, like, it's a sense where, when you test drive a car, you're going to make sure that it can drive as best you can in different circumstances. And again, your website needs to function the same way too. It should look just as good on laptop as it does on those cell phones. So if you are looking at a company other than PaperStreet, make sure that you just do that 1-2 check, just because, like I said, you'll save yourself some headaches in the future, and you'll also prevent yourself from losing business if your mobile performance really just doesn't come up to speed of how your desktop looks. Because if your competitor has a better looking, easier to navigate cell phone site, like I said, especially as Andrew pointed out, if you're in PI, if you're in family law, if you're in criminal law, these people are looking for answers quickly. They want to know, do I need a lawyer? What are they going to ask me? Things like that. You have about 3 seconds to make sure that your website looks good and functions on that cell phone, or else they're moving on to someone else. So it's really important to keep that in mind, both when you're considering the performance of your other site and then when you're looking to develop a new site as well. All right, now since we did an easier one, we're going to talk about something that's a little more behind the scenes than normal. We're going to talk about your content management system. And a lot of times, if I have to explain it to a client, I'm going to say, basically, what is it like on your back end of your website? In other words, can you, a person without much tech knowledge, edit anything on your website? Can they add pictures? What is it like on the back end for you to attempt to make use of it and things like that? But once again, these guys are our tech experts. So Mike, why don't you break that down for our listeners a little bit more?
I'll actually jump in and start on that one. For the content management system, PaperStreet has been building in WordPress, I believe, since 2005. So we are one of the most experienced teams in the legal industry for WordPress. We've been on WordPress since version 1. With that said, WordPress is obviously the most popular content management system right now. We do have experience with others. We have a custom built content management system that powers around 300 sites right now. We have multiple other custom content management systems we've built specifically for firms or businesses. So we have a lot of experience with building custom content management systems and with WordPress. With WordPress, we run a very lean WordPress. So WordPress is how you edit your website. It's what powers all of, I guess, the back end code for how your website is displayed. It all runs through WordPress. So our goal is to create the leanest, most secure WordPress possible. We do not want to run tons of plugins. We want to make sure that if we are running plugins, it's a very curated amount of plugins. We have our own custom plugins, and we want to make sure everything is fully editable without relying on other people's code. So the goal with a content management system is to have a very lean, robust, and clean content management system. We get a lot of sites that we inherit from other firms that may have 30 or 40 plugins installed. They have theme builders, all this stuff. When you have a team that knows how to code and program, they're going to run very lean, and that is for security and speed purposes. And basically, you want to have a team that can be able to customize your content management system from the ground up to support your design and your business needs. So those are the main things to really look out for, is the amount of plugins, things that, maybe on updates it breaks and all of that, but you want to make sure you really have a team that knows what they're doing when they build your content management system or build your WordPress. Because you want to make it as easy to edit as possible and as secure to edit as possible. And the big warning signs to look out for are the theme editors, such as Elementor, WordPress Bakery. There's a ton of them. And then using pre-built themes. You don't want to use pre-built themes. You want something built for the legal industry, for your firm from the ground up.
Absolutely. And when you look at our WordPress, when you log into it, you'll see there's specific sections when you're managing the content for attorney bios. There's sections for practice areas. It's specifically tailored to law firms, and we just make that editing experience, very seamless.
Yeah, and once again, I talk to our clients that came to us from other vendors and things like that, and they'll often tell me, "Oh, I couldn't update my site. I couldn't add content to my site. I had to pay, my developer every time I wanted to add like a new blog post and things like that." And that shouldn't be the case. I mean, advanced things, yes. Like I'm the first person to tell our clients, if you're going to upload a video to your website, send it to our support team, make sure they optimize it, do all of that perfectly. But you should have some ownership of your website. You should have the ability to add content and things like that. And at PaperStreet, we really try to make it a goal that somebody has the ability to do that. Like Mike said, we have the sections available so you know exactly where to go when you're making those updates and things like that. We provide tutorials so that you should be able to access like how to add a blog or something like that. Again, don't think you're a coder overnight and you can redesign your website. Please don't do that. But by the same token, it should be easy enough for you to do basic day-to-day website functions. And again, if you're looking at companies other than PaperStreet, if they're telling you, "Oh yeah, if you want to add a blog, we have to do it. If you want to add this, this, and this, we have to do it," and they can't explain why, or it sounds convoluted, it should be a warning sign to you that, hey, maybe I should look into something else. My site is convoluted. Or very easy. Another tell is that sometimes if a person's using those theme builders or things like that, they don't have much web development knowledge and they're just going for what's easy to build a website, but then changes and things like that down the line are just going to be a complete headache to you. So all of these things, like I said, are really important when you're at that beginning phase of trying to understand what should I be looking for my website, but also in your reevaluation phase of, hey, it takes me a long time to edit this. Is this normal? And things like that. So we encourage you to keep that in mind. All right, moving on. So again, the end goal of having your website is that it brings in business. Again, we aim for our lawyers to bring in new clients, but it doesn't matter what you have your website for. It should be creating an audience. It should be bringing people to you and things like that. So having a website is not the same thing as having a high performing website. So again, this may be a little advanced to think about, but there is some concept of performance optimization. What should you, as a website owner, be thinking about in terms of what are ways I can make sure my website is doing the best it can on Google in site reviews and things like that? So we call it performance optimization. And Mike, do you want to break that down a little bit more?
Yeah, when we talk about performance, we're often talking about speed. How fast after I enter the URL to the website does it reach my device and become usable? Obviously, we want that time to be as fast as possible. This is an important ranking factor for SEO for Google. Google actually cares a lot about page speed. That's kind of the basis for why I think we focus on it, but it's also about just that user experience. Speed is paramount to a website, and so um, think about it as when you type in URL, your device is reaching out to a remote server, could be in Texas, where a lot of our servers are hosted, and actually it's downloading files to show the website to you. And so the more streamlined those are, both in terms of size, are they nicely compressed? And so the file size is managed, and the order in which those files are sent to your device can really impact how fast that website performs. And so one way to test that is what's actually on the screen here. This is a PageSpeed Insights speed report. It's a free to use tool. It boils down your website performance into a 0 to 100 scores. It's very digestible. You don't have to get into technical details beyond that, but there's a mobile score and a desktop score. These can surprisingly be quite different. And that mobile score, which we touched on responsive earlier, is a very important ranking factor to have your website near the top of those Google results. Speed is not only important for the user experience, but also for marketing your website. And this is a tool, you can look this up, PageSpeed Insights, and put your website through it as a test.
Yeah, absolutely. And Google actually indexes mobile first. So that page speed score, as Mike said, for mobile is really the most important. You want to make sure desktop is good as well, but focus on mobile. You may go to your website and see it load within 2 seconds, and that seems great. But in reality, Google's penalizing you because there's tons of metrics that your website is not complying with. And you want to be able to make sure that your site is passing all of the mobile requirements for speed, so you rank as high as possible. We see that a lot, and we actually help clients with audits a lot, where we'll go and manually code updates so that your site runs as fast as possible. We help a lot with that on support, and we do not rely on plugins for that. We do all manual optimizations for our clients.
Yeah, just as a caveat, SEO is obviously how I got my, or at least I should say, so I often talk about is how I got started into this marketing industry. And, it's important to realize that, the technical optimization, this performance optimization, your speed is not the only thing that's going to be what gets you ranking on Google. But you don't want to try to rank on Google when you already know you have a problem. So if you're like going into like an SEO agency kind of thing, and they don't touch upon your site speed or anything like that, you're kind of handicapping yourself because you're never going to be able to achieve that sort of success if your website isn't technically sound. Does it have technical elements that it needs to have to in order to appear on Google? Because if you have like the best page of content ever on, let's say you're a family lawyer, it's about alimony. It's fantastic, really helpful, people love it. But your site score or your site speed or other technical components are bad, then it's going to detract how far you rank because it is a factor in what Google does with how it shows you results. So again, don't start, trying to cover up a bad website if it's not fast, if it has technical errors or anything like that, because your SEO just won't be able to keep up. And on a human level, people expect websites to load in less than 3 seconds. So people are trying to get your website to load in 2 seconds. So as crazy as that sounds, once again, if you're in a highly competitive area, whether you're the lawyer and PI or if you're a business owner or something like that, you're already losing potential clients if your website's too slow because people in this day and age, they expect success, they expect fast and things like that. So even though the performance optimization that we're focused on the most right now is speed, it really does matter a lot in terms of Google, in terms of your users and things like that.
Yeah, I would also just one last comment would be, it may be really fast if you live in a major metropolitan populated area. You're on a 5G mobile network. If you're trying to get a client who maybe lives in a more rural area, their connection speed may be 3G or 4G. It may be a much slower than, if you're in downtown Miami or Boston or New York or LA or whatever it is. If you have a client out in the countryside or clients that are offshore, we do a lot of work like that. You would, yeah, you want to make sure it's loading as fast as possible for those slower networks because not everyone is on lightning fast Wi-Fi or a 5G ultra network or something like that.
Good point.
All right, and then last but not least is a lot of clients are come to us, like we'll talk about how PaperStreet's really proud of our hosting. And the thing is that a lot of our potential clients or even people who just come to us new, they're newbies in the sense that they don't understand the difference between a website host, your website support, your maintenance, and things like that. So again, it's web tech that you need to understand that not these things are not all equal. So when you're looking to develop your website, hopefully again with PaperStreet, but if not, and you're talking to these vendors, you need to make sure that support, maintenance, and hosting are all encompassed within the health and safety of your website. So Andrew, could you summarize that up for us?
Absolutely. So when you go to sign with a potential vendor, or if you're looking into hosting yourself, we get that a lot as well from clients. You may see that, GoDaddy is offering you web hosting for $15 a month, but then a competitor or sorry, a web design company may be charging $100 per month. So of course our clients are going to say, oh, well, that host is $15, that one is $100. So obviously I'll go with it. What you need to keep in mind is when you're hosting with someone like PaperStreet or one of our good competitors, the actual server hosting that you're seeing for that cheap cost that let's say GoDaddy or on your own account at Liquid Web or something like that, that is not maintaining your platform at all. That is just the server cost of hosting the site. So let's say you came to PaperStreet and we're far more expensive than that $15. And you think, well, I'm going to go with the $15 one. Well, the issue is that no one then is supporting your website. So the website hosting is one small factor of your monthly ongoing, maintenance and support. But the most important thing is that support for what we talked about under the security. You want to make sure that your PHP is on the latest version, that your plugins are on the latest version, that you have someone doing nightly backups, you have the login URLs covered. You want to make sure that you have one-click restores. People are checking your site for viruses. The actual hosting fee is a fraction of what goes into your monthly cost for maintaining your website. So we see that all the time with clients where they say, well, that's $15 and this is $100. Well, yes, because they're two completely separate things. For us, if we were just going to host and not maintain, of course, we can match one of those low prices, but that's going to be doing an absolute disservice to you by not maintaining the software and your website, because I would say 8 or 9 times out of 10, the clients that do go to those cheap posts come back to us a year later and say, hey, I've got some serious issues. I noticed my site's not loading properly. We look and they've been hacked because nobody has been updating the plugins. No one's been maintaining the software. And then they need to come to us, have us work 10 hours fixing the website. And then you're right back to what you would have paid anyways if you just did it properly in the first place. And also, these lower tier hosts are not going to provide the same speed that we were just talking about as well. So it's really the speed, the security, and the maintenance that is what goes into having a successful monthly plan for your website. Now, on top of that, you also want to make sure you have a team that is there 24/7 for website edits. Let's say there's something that you can't take care of, and you need to, let's say, add 5 new attorney bios, and you don't have the time to do it. You need to make sure you have a team there that is capable of helping your marketing efforts and helping your digital presence, and in a cost-effective manner. Because we'll see a lot of times where there's price gouging on it, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that they're quoting and giving fair quotes. But really, the most important thing is that keeping in mind that cheap web hosting is never good because your software and your website is not supported.
Here again, it's the kind of thing again, because I work directly with the clients of what I see things going wrong. I've had clients tell me that their host won't give them their domain access. They don't know who their domain is. I've had clients tell me that they have a bad web host and their site went down and they didn't even know that it went down and things like that. So that always pays itself off. And the support thing is a big thing too, because in the legal industry, I mean, things happen. Firms have nasty breakups with each other, a partner leaves abruptly, things like that. You don't want to have to chase down your system if you're looking to quickly make sure that a partner's name is removed from the site. You want to make sure those things happen. If there's an emergency, if there's a really great win, you want to say, hey, we just won $5 million. The benefits of having a support team, it's not even just an emergency. Well, what if my website breaks? Yeah, that's crucial and it's a big deal. But there are times where you're going to want same day service. You're going to want someone to answer your questions right away and things like that. So, the value of someone you know and trust that is available to you when you are making these big changes, big announcements, things like that. Again, it's not a small thing to just ignore because, again, sometimes the inevitable happens and it's bad. And we've had it, unfortunately, where law firms have had nasty breakups and one first partner is trying to take it from the other partner and things like that. So it's not even just a tech crisis that could happen. It's just a human level of what bad things could happen when you're running a business or a law firm. So you need to make sure that you always have a good support system for your site when the inevitable happens, not just on a tech level, but just on an overall level. All right. Well, thank you, Andrew and Mike. Hopefully, this was enlightening for us who don't necessarily have the most web knowledge in the world when it comes to the tech side of things. So, hopefully, our listeners learned a lot. Thank you both for joining me. Until next time, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.